Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm Sophia Chua, your host for this session. Thank you for tuning into this session brought to you by LIMS Review Center, the Princeton Review Philippines, AUG Philippines, and AECC Philippines. So, for this session, we'll be having another country talk for Singapore. The speakers will be discussing whether the particular location of their college played a role in their decision making, as well as other factors they considered when assessing their chosen college destination. So before we proceed with the talk, let us lay down some ground rules. So number one, please do not spam the Q&A box or send any inappropriate messages. Number two, everyone at camp is working very hard to make your conference experience amazing. So please be respectful at all times. And number three, all questions must be sent in the Q&A box. Questions in the chat box might get lost in all the messages. So now that we're familiar with the house rules, please allow me to introduce our speaker for this session. Meet Caitlin, a third-year student at the Singapore University of Technology and Design, specializing in computer science with a focus on AI. She also holds a minor in digital humanities. With an unwavering passion for software development and tech exploration, Caitlin is on a mission to change the world for the better by leveraging the power of technology. Her ultimate goal is to bring people closer together through innovative solutions and foster connections that transcend boundaries. With a thirst for knowledge and a commitment to continuous learning, Caitlin is excited to merge her interests in computer science and the humanities to create meaningful and impactful contributions. So again, let us welcome Caitlin Chiang. Hi, Caitlin.
Hi, am I heard?
Yes, you're heard.
Okay, I'm sorry for the background noise. I'm actually in the middle of a dance battle right now, but please feel free to interrupt me at any time in case anything goes wrong. I'll be sharing my screen to show the. Okay, here. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, I guess I can start. Okay, so hello, my name is Caitlin, and I'll be talking about Singapore. In particular, my university, Singapore University of Technology and Design. So I'm quite biased to my own uni, but then I will also be talking about SMU, NUS, and the other universities in case anybody is also interested in going to those. Okay. So feel free to scan the QR code if you're curious on my portfolio and how I even ended up in this university in the first place. But very quick rundown. So about me, I study computer science, in particular AI here in SUTD. I have a minor in digital humanities, which is like your literature related to technology and ethics. I took my senior high school in ICA, Immaculate Conception Academy in San Juan. I took the International Baccalaureate. For work experience, I've been a freelance developer since 2020. I also did software engineering as an intern in DragonPay. Then I worked full-time in dashlabs.ai, which is like a healthcare startup in the Philippines. I volunteered as a software engineer in the Philippine Red Cross. And currently, I'm a software engineer researcher at SUTD. So I've been coding for a very long time already, 8+ years. I started when I was around 12, 13. I'm 20 years old now. And yeah, I also have a passion for dance. So this is my background and why I wanted to go to SUTD, which is primarily a very tech-centered school. Okay, so now about SUTD. So it's collaborating with MIT, and it's a multidisciplinary and human-centric curriculum. So every term we are required to take one HAS mod, which is like our humanities module, and there are four modules every single term. Yeah, and each term consists of 4 months. So we go week by week, and at the end we need to accomplish like 13 weeks worth of schooling. So this school is very STEM based. Actually, we only have a few degrees here. We hold computer science. We have one for like electrical engineering. Then we have one that's more of like management engineering, like the one in Ateneo. So that's your business and analytics stuff also. And we have your architecture. So we only focus on these 4 strands at the moment. If you want to go for like a business degree, I suggest you would look for things like NUS and SMU instead. But what's nice here is if you are interested in STEM and you are interested in building things, then there's an 11-to-1 student to faculty ratio. Because they are very selective with their students here. It's like you're only a small group and you're all assigned like one professor each. So you're very close to your professors. You form real relationships with them, and they can really help you through things. They also kind of become your mentors in some sense. And here in SUTD, you have very nice facilities such as like the fabrication lab. And because it is a very hands-on school compared to your like NUS and NTU, there's a lot of facilities you can use for free, like 3D printing, or if you somehow want to randomly build like a new machine, they have all the facilities for that. They can teach you woodworking and other skills that you may be interested in, like laser cutting, but 3D printing is, I think, the most popular one at the moment. I think it's also getting a little bit more popular in the Philippines. So yeah, now I would say if you interested in a STEM degree, this is a nice place to go. If you're interested in a business degree, you'd want to be applying for NUS and SMU instead. If you're looking for more artistic things, you'd want to look at De La Salle College of the Arts. Um, oh, tech also, you want to be looking at NTU as well. It's very tech-centric there too. But the difference between these schools is that here in SUTD, it's like, it's very hands-on projects. So most of the time, you'll probably have some terms where you don't even have like final exams or you won't have like written exams. It will just be like a deliverable of, let's say, oh, I want you to build XYZ with these requirements. So that will be your final project in your final submission for the term. But if you would go for something like NUS, then your majority of your grade will be coming from your tests, and sometimes it can take up until 60-70% your finals for your entire grade. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, now for the application process. So here in Singapore, generally they focus a lot on A levels. And because that is what they teach here, that is their senior high school in some sense. So in the Philippines, we have like STEM, HUMS, ABM. Here they have just A levels, and everybody usually takes this. So, but because it's not really popular in the Philippines, right, to have A levels or the option to even take A levels at your school. If you have the option to take international baccalaureate like the IB, take it. It is easier to apply here in Singapore with their IB grades, to be very honest. But then if you go for like your STEM track or your ABM, or like have a more regular track than your A levels, your IB, then it is not also impossible to get into these universities. Like for example, in SUTD right now, I have a Filipino friend and she is actually homeschooled. So she didn't take the IB or anything. She took the homeschool curriculum in the Philippines and she still got in. Yeah, but if you are taking the IB, then I suggest you get a grade higher than 37 out of 45. Yeah, and different universities and majors will have varying grade/subject requirements also. So let's say here I'm in SUTD. When I applied, they required physics. So because I didn't take physics in IB or in high school really, I was required to submit physics SAT scores instead. But because this was during the pandemic and I wasn't able to sit down for an SAT test, then that is when they call you for an entrance exam to the school, which I will be touching on later on. So even if you did not take the subject, it is not impossible to get into these schools, no worries. But for example, I also applied for NUS and they required me, I think chemistry, they required me like higher level chemistry for IB, which luckily I took, so I was able to apply. Because otherwise, some schools, if you do not take the subject, then it's basically just a lost cause and you're not really able to apply for the major that you want. Yeah. So again, entrance exam is applicable to some universities. And in terms of requirements, we're supposed to submit your earlier records of your like grade 7 to 10. So your grade school, your high school years going into senior high school. So things to look out for, you want really, really good academic records because yes, to be honest, Singapore is very, very academic based. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything and say like your extracurriculars matter more, your academics matters the most. Okay, they are looking at your grades the most, and because you are competing with your local Singaporeans who are also trying to get into these schools, the bar is very very high. So especially throughout senior high school, you should work very very hard. Yeah, and you also want really good testimonials from your STEM teachers. So if you have like a math or a science or a physics or a chemistry teacher, you want those teachers to be writing your testimonials for you, because these schools do require like testimonials coming from your professors. However, okay, let's say like NUS, NTU, I did apply for those schools. They did not really care about my personal interests or like projects I've done in the side. In their online application portal, mostly it's just like this little section where you can input, oh, I did XYZ. But to be very honest, they do not prioritize this. Um, they will look at your academic transcripts, and that is what they will be prioritizing. But for example, you want to go to some place like SUTD where I'm going at, that is when they care more about your interests, but not in a way like you want to talk about the arts, for example. It is not that interesting to them also because it is a STEM school, right? So if you're interested in the arts, you probably want to apply to your art school instead, and they will be probably looking at your portfolio more. Um, because for me, from my experience, when I did the interviews with SUTD, I did start talking about like my passions with dance. But then they kind of told me to like just skip over it and start talking about like my technical projects, which luckily I had a lot of at the time. But if I didn't have these technical projects, then my interview would have basically been cut short because the other things are not that interesting to them. So like what would a typical timeline look like here when you're applying? So you want to apply to your online portal, and that was when you submit all your requirements. And for example, like for the IBs, you want to submit your predicted grades as well. So all your predicted scores, you'll just all pass there. And if this is good enough for them, and then they already filtering out people at this point. So if this is good enough for them, then you will receive an email confirmation, uh, and they will allow you to go for an entrance exam. And now this entrance exam only happens when during the online application phase, if you don't have your specific subject requirement. Like as I mentioned earlier, I didn't take physics and I couldn't submit any SAT scores also for physics. So that means I was eligible to take an entrance exam test. So you go through your entrance exam, which is online for us international people. And then after this, if you get the good score and if they choose you, then you get to attend the interview. So you're not yet there. But after the interview, if they find you interesting enough, then that is when you get your email confirmation that you are accepted to school. So you might be wondering, okay, what is in the online portal? Like what is in the actual first phase of the application? So here, aside from your academic transcripts, there is a chance for you to apply for scholarship. Okay. So this is very important because this is something that I missed out on right from the start, which I really regret. So aside from being awarded your academic like grants, your academic scholarships, if you have like astonishing grades, you can be average, you can have okay grades, but you can still get a scholarship because there's a section there where you are able to request for a sponsorship. So these sponsorships are basically like you're selling yourself to a list of sponsors, and you want to like put your best foot out there in your application, right? You like write your interests, your reason why you need this, and like proof of like why you need this also, like something like that. And then after you fill all this in, if somebody finds you interesting enough and wants to sponsor your education, then they will accept you, and basically your fees, I think, either go down a lot or you don't have to pay fees at all. And the only way you can keep up this sponsorship throughout your whole schooling is if you maintain your grades. So just make sure you don't fail anything like that, and you can get highly subsidized for your education. Oh, also to throw it out there, you can apply for tuition grants here in Singapore. Please take note. Tuition grants, international students, everyone does it because it subsidizes your education fees like loads. It varies major to major, like how much gets subsidized, but overall, it's really worth it. The only caveat here is that you have to work 3 years after you graduate. So let's say university is 4 years, you have to add an extra 3 years working under any Singapore company. And this does not include making your own business or doing freelance. I think it is what only counts is if you work for an actual company. So yeah, that is what's under the online application phase. In terms of the entrance exam, if you're interested in knowing what you should be preparing for in the entrance exam, math and physics. Singapore loves math and physics, especially any STEM related course. So if you didn't take it, I suggest you brush up on your math and physics skills. And your interview, they might throw in math and physics questions. It's more like those mind teasers. And what's important here is that you articulate your train of thought, and that you verbalize your whole thought process. So even if your ending answer is wrong, they know how you think, and this like counts for a lot of points. But of course, you also have your general questions like your tell me about yourself. So I suggest you practice introducing yourself in a very quick manner that will grab the interest of the people that's interviewing you. I think that's about it feel free to ask me anything after about this process or anything that you're curious about. I'll go to the next step. Oh, okay. I forgot. I already accidentally talked about this in my previous slide. Um, okay. Oh, here's the link, by the way, for your MOE tuition grant in case anybody needs it. You can actually just search online MOE tuition grant application procedure, and this will be one of the first links that will come up. I suggest you read through this document, and you can apply very early on, or like during the first week of university actually is when everyone starts applying for this, I believe. Yeah. So now I'm gonna talk about just adapting to Singapore. And as much as I love this place, I won't be putting it on a pedestal and sugarcoating everything. I will be very blunt with my experiences, even the bad ones. So in terms of academics, like all your stereotypes about Singapore being a very stressful country and your Singaporeans being very intense people, it's not just stereotypes. It is actually the reality here. So I came in very chill because like in the Philippines senior high school, we have a lot of fun. Like we don't take things okay, we still take things seriously, of course, but we have fun most of the time and we're just very carefree people. But once I came here, it was very different. Students are very, very, very competitive, which I will be talking about later in the social aspect, but this is just something you have to keep in mind. Also, the education system is way more rigorous than the Philippine one. Even comparing universities, like my friends back home, studying in Ateneo and UP, LaSalle, your big four also. If you compare their curriculum to the Singapore ones, somehow the Singapore ones, they really want to like push you and push you and push you like to your absolute limits. So it is very rigorous, and this is something that you really have to adapt to, because it will be a culture shock to start receiving homeworks weekly, like week by week by week, and have these concepts that you've never seen before, that was not taught in the Philippines. So you have to be willing to go out of your way, ask help from your classmates, or perhaps ask help from YouTube. Organic chemistry tutor, I think you will really need that guy at one point. Next, advanced syllabus, I think, because the Singaporeans did take the A levels, right? So they're equipped with knowledge that we aren't equipped also with. So yet again, we have to catch up a lot. Next, yes, hard work, perseverance. Yes, that's very self-explanatory. Next, I want to talk about the social aspect of Singapore. So socially, you have to have a lot of patience in finding the right friend group. This one again, because touching on my point about people being competitive, because students here are very competitive, it can get very difficult to find friends that won't bite you in the back, because there can be like the nicest people ever and would befriend you once you start excelling in your studies, and once you start proving to everybody else that you are like good enough. If you start becoming a threat to these people will go behind your back and talk shit about you. Essentially, like they will talk crap about you for absolutely nothing, just to have other people think of you more poorly. So this is this is the reality. If you are planning to excel and becoming like a star student, you will have to deal with these kinds of things. But I'm not saying everyone's bad either, because you do have your more chill people somewhere. They're just harder to find, but they will be there. And when you do find these people, it will become more worth it because you've already gone through like the rough time. So it'd be nicer now you have like people who actually care about you. Next, you have different male to female ratios for different courses. So my friend, she studies in the LaSalle University College of the Arts, and there she has a lot of girl classmates. So I'm not trying to stereotype that, women are more in the arts field, but I'm just saying like she has more female classmates. My friends also from the Philippines who went to SMU, they have a lot of female classmates as well. Actually, majority of their classes are female. But here in SUTD, because it is STEM based, you have a ratio of about like every 7 guys, maybe there'll be like 3 girls, which is not, it's not the best ratio. And every group project, sometimes I'm the only girl there, so it's a bit intimidating. So you have to keep this in mind when selecting a course also, if you'll be comfortable in these kinds of situations. But I would say men here are very respectful. They're more gentlemanly, so they shouldn't be people you should be fearing about also. Next, okay, different sizes of Filipino communities. Again, depends on the university. In SMU, there's a fantastic Filipino community there. So my friend is like having the time of her life, hanging out with these Filipinos, and then they go to this place called Lucky Plaza here in Singapore, where they have really good Filipino food. You have your sisig, your lechon, your everything is there. But for SUTD, there's like a maximum of 4 of us in our small batch who are Filipinos. So it's actually very difficult, especially when they start having things like culture days. Like for example, let's say the the Indians will have their own like cultural events happening in our school. So you get to see all these very beautiful Indian women dressing up into their traditional uniforms, and like you feel a bit left out, to be honest, because you do have like a very 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 small community. Um, so this is something you have to struggle with, and but something you might overcome, because you'll start realizing that the other cultures will, the harsh divide of like Filipino, and like you have your actual Chinese, then you have your, no, sorry, your Singaporeans, then you have your like Indians and your Malaysians. So at first it looks like a very hard line, like a divider, and it's maybe a bit hard to get along at first, but slowly you take your time. After a couple of months, you'll start realizing everybody actually respects each other, and everybody starts blending in to form like more diverse friend groups. So this is something you don't worry about so much anymore later down the line. Okay, I already talked about being competitive. Language, you have to learn Singlish slang. It is also quite difficult because they use a lot of shortcuts and a lot of Chinese lingo as well. So if you're not Chinese, it may be harder for you to adapt, honestly. But then these words, people are more than willing to help teach you these, and you can pick up on them, but do not rush the process. But people will teach you, and yeah, although you might get a bit left out when they start like doing their Chinese banter, because okay, a majority of the people here are Chinese. Whether you're Singaporeans or you have your Chinese Malays or Chinese Indonesians also, so they all start talking Chinese. Don't worry, most of the time it's not about you, but there will be occasions that it will be about you. So you just have to find the right friend group yet again. Okay, and you have your cultural diversity, which I just talked about. Oh, something to note though, because it is required for SUTD at least to be able to converse in English very like fluently. So you communicate with other students. So students coming from China actually are required to take this additional test, this English test, I think, before entering the university. So this is just to assure that you are able to speak English. Um, I'm not so sure what the rules are for Philippines, if students here are required also to take the test. Because in my case, I took up English throughout high school, and I took language and literature as one of my subjects for the IB. So this was not something I had to worry about. But In case your school doesn't offer English and it's only like pure Filipino, then I think that will be an issue. But no worries, this the university will help you throughout, and um, you are required to take this English test. Okay, next, transportation. It is very safe here. Very convenient. There are a lot of trains. There are 6 lines of trains. And each train comes and goes from 2 minutes. So if you miss your train, it doesn't take long to like wait for the next one. You're like maximum 5 minutes waiting for your next train. And I travel alone now at night, and I feel much safer than roaming the streets of the Philippines at night. Here, 11 p.m. I could be walking down the street and I wouldn't be worried about anything. There aren't any police officers. So in case you're a woman and you're more terrified about this something to keep in mind. There aren't like stationed officers in like the corners of the street, and a lot of the buildings actually don't have security. Because it is a safe country, so they don't feel the need to just have police officers always patrolling. So this is something to think about. But it is mostly safe. Yeah, I haven't heard of anything happening to anybody. No cases of kidnapping, rape, or anything like that. Yeah. So you also have your buses as well, your taxis, your Grab, your and there's also like Gojek and other car transportation services. Yeah. So for food, there's a lack of Filipino food compared to the other races. So there's a lot of like Malaysian stalls, there's a lot of like Indian stalls, Indonesian stalls, but Filipino food not so much. Very rarely, you see them very rarely, but you'll see them all in this one place called Lucky Plaza in Orchard, which is like the main shopping place of Singapore. So you do have to travel a bit to get your hands on some good food, but it'd be worth it. But yet again, there'd be a huge variety of other cuisines like Japanese, yeah, and Chinese food. Because this Singapore is kind of like the melting pot of all these different races, so there's like a huge diversity in food here. Oops. Okay, next, language requirements. I already touched on this. For tips on how to become good at English, in case anybody needs it, you just have to speak it a lot. Find people who can practice with you. If you're from like a pure Filipino school and everyone's always speaking Filipino, and you do need this English, you want to practice, then I'd suggest you start practicing now. But if you want an app, Duolingo is amazing. It will help you. It's currently helping me learn Mandarin so that I feel less outcasted here, and I feel more included in the Chinese conversations and banter. So yeah, additional resources. Each student in SUTD actually is assigned a mentor. So these mentors are paired up with you right from when you enter the school, okay? And these mentors are essentially there to help you throughout. So they're more academic counselors than like, mental health counselors. Though there is like a guidance counselor of some sort in the school, but um you don't really expect much from these one-to-one mentors unless you get a really good one. I'd say your mentors actually become more of your professors themselves. Like the more you ask them questions, the more closer you get, and sometimes you even get to like sip a coffee with them in the canteen, and that is when like a real relationship forms with them, and these become your essentially your like second parents. Yeah. Next, to be honest, there are not many support systems in place unless you do have your like whole Filipino community there. But in SUTD, support systems not really. It has to be your own friend group, which you have to work hard to find and go out of your way to have a really solid friend group. But okay, you have a huge range of clubs and extracurriculars to join in all the universities. And in most cases, these extracurriculars is actually what saves you a spot in the dorms, which is something I want to talk about right now. Actually, it's a good segue. So for NUS, the dormitory situation is very, very competitive. So I believe you were required to have like one sport and one other club, I think, and you must maintain these, or I think it's 2 sport activities. And basically, if you reach this like always reach this threshold of requirements, then you have a higher chance of getting in your dorm and staying in your dorm. But then other than that, if you're not really involved or not like a very extroverted person, and you want to prioritize only studying, then your chances of getting a dorm is basically zero. So for SUTD, they will assure you a dorm only in your first year. Okay, because every freshman is required to live in the school, whether you have a house here or not, whether you're a Singaporean or not, you are required to live in the school. And this is kind of to just like um push camaraderie and allow you to make more friends. So this is what they really emphasize on. However, it is only assured to that point, and I don't think it's that competitive compared to the other schools. Like I was able to have a nice dorm from term one all the way until term five, which is now. But sadly, because they are now prioritizing the freshmen again, then I am now kicked out, and I am now looking for elsewhere to rent. And a lot of us international students are kind of just like lost at the moment. So I wasn't really prepared for this situation, to be very honest. So that's why I'm trying to emphasize this. Please be prepared. It is really good if you have relatives here in Singapore already, so you have some place to stay. But I have this friend from this friend, Filipino friend. She came here to Singapore, was planning to study in SMU. So, but the problem is she didn't manage to get a dorm in SMU, and this is the reality for a lot of people. So what happens now is that good thing she was like wealthy enough to quickly find a rental place, um, and be able to rent really quickly. Oh, if you are ever looking for rental places, go. Oh my god, go to this. Oh, it's called Property Guru. You can see so well. I'll put it in the chat later. It's called Property Guru. And here in this resource, it's like specifically for Singapore. So you're able to like input your location of the university and then see free rentals nearby. Most of the time you are going to be renting with strangers. But if you're a female and this is one of your concerns, don't worry, because a lot of rental spaces actually have a only female rule. So it's like a majority female environment. No boys are allowed to step inside the rental space and everything. So not to worry about that. But I think this is something that you have to research before even finalizing any decision if you want to go to Singapore, because you don't want to end up in a situation where you are homeless in the street. Okay, next, what do I want to talk about? Student government. Oh yeah, each school would have your, student government, your student council. They're very helpful people also. If you need help, these are the people kind of you go to when you still are having trouble making friends. Yeah. So that's adapting to Singapore. Okay. Cost of living now, it is very high. The cost of living is generally very high because it also inflation struck here recently. So everything just raised above like let's say $1 to $2, which is like 42 pesos. Each dollar is like 42 pesos. So everything raised for about like 80 pesos, and that's kind of a lot. So yeah, you have to be prepared for that. But the good thing is you get good pay, good salaries. Even for internship positions, it is like how much you'd pay like a full-time worker in the Philippines. So your typical expenses, I'd say for a university student is your MRT rides. So it's about $1 to travel to a place, not to and from. So just going somewhere via train, it takes about $1, so around 40 pesos. Um, then you want to also eat in your hawker center food, your canteen food, because you want to save money and not spend it all on like restaurants, in the malls, which there are a lot of malls because they are very capitalist, and people do a lot of retail therapy because they're all stressed. So yes, but um, I wouldn't say it's too expensive. If you go for like the more canteen vibes, then it's about 140 to 200 pesos, which is still, a bit more expensive than like your Philippine canteens, but this is honestly already how cheap as it goes. Yeah. And you have your bubble tea and snacks, so that's around $4 to $5 to $6. So that's around your 220 pesos. Yeah. Then next, safety and health. Again, is very safe traveling around. This is not something you should worry about. And in terms of health, there is no major health risks. And especially like even if it was the pandemic a few years back or 2 years ago, the government manages things very well. So you shouldn't be too worried about it at all. And a lot of us got no, all of us got free vaccines. I got vaccinated here in Singapore actually for my booster for free of charge, even for international students. So yeah, and even if you do fall ill, there are student schemes for treatment. So you have to check where university, which university you're going to, because for example, SUTD, they do have like a scheme for health. So in case somebody falls sick, you need your, sick medicine, you have fever, you want to be taken care of, you want something checked because you fell, you have an injury, you can get all of these for free. So please, make sure to find out if your school offers this, because you don't want to be spending extra money. I think inclusivity, I think I spoke about this earlier, but I'll just go over it again quickly. Diversity in culture, there are many races and religions. Generally not too much discrimination actually. Like I haven't felt ostracized here or anything at all. Only feel a bit left out when the other cultures get together, but they don't treat me poorly. They don't treat Filipinos poorly. At least university Filipinos, like no, like student Filipinos going to university. Yeah. So but they do, some people will look down on Filipinos who are working as OFWs. Um and this is just kind of the reality of it. So you're very rich, like Singaporeans will hire your Filipino workers to be their maids, which if you get lucky, get treated well. But mostly people will kind of look at you poorly, I guess, especially because these Filipinos don't really have like a house, of course. Like if you were working as a maid, then you're living with the people you're working for. So on the weekends, usually I see a lot of them sitting in orchard on the streets. So there's just like streets and streets filled with just Filipinos on the ground sitting having lunch together. Um, which sometimes it feels kind of sad seeing this, but this is the reality. But they do look like they're having a good time and they're making the most out of it. So honestly, feel free to join them also if you're feeling lonely on Sundays. I like joining them sometimes. Yes. Uh yeah, I think that's about it. Oh, please, because here in Singapore, because there is so much religion, you have to be careful about things like even where to put your food trays, because if you accidentally put the wrong food tray to the wrong section, this can be harming somebody else's religion. So please just be careful about that. Something to keep in mind. Okay. I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about. So feel free to ask me anything, which I think there is here. Okay. Do I go through the Q&A questions first?
Yes, yes, you can go through them. I can read them out for you. Yeah, thank you so much,
Okay.
Caitlin.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
So for the first question, which courses need Chem HL? Is there no chance at all if you're Chem SL?
Oh, Cam, or okay, so like I applied for computer science for all my schools. So this is why I needed chemistry. They preferred HL actually, not necessarily chemistry. I'd say in the sciences, so chemistry or physics HL. If you're chemistry SL, I for SUTD you still can apply, yes. But then for NUS, I'm not too sure anymore if you're able to like apply, or I feel like you still can apply, but honestly they might gloss over your application if you don't meet their requirements. Um, so in this case, I suggest actually you take the SATs, because I'm pretty sure it's running back up nicely here in the Philippines again. If you know you're missing a subject, take the subject test in SAT, and you're going to be submitting that grade to the school, okay? And they do acknowledge SAT, so that is not something you have to worry about if you didn't take it back in the day. Yeah.
Thank you. For our second question, are applicants required to take an entrance exam for SUTD right now, or will SCT, ACT be enough?
Okay, so if you did take your required subjects, so let's say you did take your physics SAT, and you submit this and you took, let's say, your math HL in school, then you will not be needing to take an entrance test. They could shoot you straight to the interview section already. Yep.
For our third question, are there any alternatives for the subject test since SAT2 has been discontinued?
No way. Oh my. SAT is discontinued. Actually, I'm not too sure anymore. Uh, yeah, sorry about that. I'm not too sure about other subject tests if you're able to take those, or if if in that case, then you might just have to sit in for the actual entrance test of the school. Yeah.
Thank you. May I ask, is it difficult to receive tuition grants?
Uh, for tuition grant itself, like the main MOE tuition grant, everybody gets it. Like if you apply and you make sure to submit all your requirements and you're not faking anything and nothing illegal is going on, then you are actually you're already guaranteed to have this tuition grant. But if you're asking about like scholarships, like your sponsorships, then these are all not these are all quite difficult to get actually, yeah.
Is the backbiting culture also persistent in SMU and other Singaporean unis?
It depends on your course. Actually, yes, because I have friends in SMU who are taking business, and they're having a great time. Like, not much backstabbing issues at all. It's very easy to make friends also. So maybe it's because they're business kids and they're really out there to network with each other. But I also know people taking computer science in NUS and they have the same issue about the backbiting. I think it's the very competitive STEM courses. You'll meet a lot of people like this. Yeah.
What would you say is a good SAT or ACT score range when applying to schools in Singapore?
I'd say you should. I believe if anything has changed, I'm not too sure, but when I applied, it was still over 1600. I'd say shoot for about 1400 or 1450. Yeah.
For computer science, do the universities really value the side projects that you do?
Catherine Lee. Catherine Lee, are you? I hope you're the Catherine Lee, my friend. Hello, if that's you. Okay, so for computer science, yes, side projects are for SUTD at least. It is your main focus, and personally for my interview, uh, I wasn't so sure if okay, because for SUTD you're able to submit this YouTube link, okay, and this YouTube link is basically your pitch about yourself. So here it's like you have to talk about your side projects because this will make you stand out compared to the rest of your competitors. And for my interviews, I did actually share screen on Zoom itself. I shared screen, I showed them my code, I showed them my projects, and I'm pretty sure that is what helped me get in the school in the first place. Because a lot of Singaporeans actually they've been focusing on their grades for very long, so they don't have too much time doing as much side projects. But that's why I'm saying, like, if you have more free time in the Philippines and the school workload is not too much yet, you do make your side projects, make yourself stand out, and your chances of getting it is way higher.
We have another question about the dorms. Hi, do you stay at the dorm at your school? And also about the dorming situation that you talked about earlier. Is that limited to SUTD or is that for all also? Like about getting extracurriculars?
Um, the whole extracurricular thing, that is for NUS. I'm not so sure about how SMU and NTU works. But for SUTD, what they care about is your housing events. Okay, so not your extracurriculars. It doesn't matter if you have 5 extracurriculars. If you did not attend like three, you didn't attend 3 events, hostel events, in freshman year, then your chances of getting hostel again is very, very low. But if you meet this criteria, you shouldn't have a problem actually too much of getting in. So I met all these requirements each year. That's why until now I'm living in the dorm. But then last term I got very busy, so instead of 3 events, I only went to one. And I didn't think it would have affected it as bad as it did because now I have no house. So yes, it does affect it.
Thank you. Knowing what you know about Singapore now, would you still choose to apply to Singaporean schools or would you prefer going to another country?
Um, okay, sometimes I question myself why I put myself in this situation. There are actually a lot of exchange students also that come here and regret it. It is not for the weak-hearted, but at this point, the amount of things I've learned by pushing myself and sadly getting trapped in this competitive nature, even though, It's not really healthy. I feel like I've learned like a lot of things that I wouldn't have otherwise learned, and this is very valuable like information for me, because especially for like the tech space, you want to be like ahead of the game, ahead of like a lot of people. So uh I wouldn't take it back. I'm okay with how where I am now. It was just very, very difficult. Yeah.
We have a similar question. Is the academic competition of Singapore suffocating?
Yes, I have weekly breakdowns. Oh my gosh. Okay, you know what? Me, my friends, we have this like event in our Google Calendar called Breakdown. Okay, we assign this time just to cry because it is so suffocating, and people are insane. And sometimes you need help for like, let's say, one question in your homework. I'm pretty sure in the Philippines, sometimes people would just give you their paper and then you're able to like compare solutions. Here, they will not tell you. They might, if you get lucky, they might tell you the final answer, and they won't really help you otherwise if you accidentally like ask the wrong person. Uh yes, and when it comes to like grades, right? I can for example, we get our like tests back. The first thing everybody does is compare scores. And if you're not comfortable in sharing your score, they will try get it out of you. Like I have not seen a culture like this. Like they will try get your score out of you. If not, they will try like snatch your paper to like peek your score. And it's just it's very, very stressful, yes. But I don't blame them either, because this is how they were all raised up to be. And the system was already like this since they were like primary kids. Yeah.
Thank you for that brutally honest truth. Um, there's another question here, but I feel like you've touched upon this a while ago already. Someone's asking what the difference between SMU and NUS is.
So NUS NUS is like way more prestigious than SMU, I'd say, because I believe NUS made it to like top 10 schools of the world, I think. So NUS is like the national university. It's living up to its name. So this is the school everybody like aims to go to. SMU, I'd say it's like NUS because it offers the same subjects, like you have NUS law, NUS business, NUS tech, and also in SMU you have your like tech building, you have your SMU law, and you have your SMU business. But I guess it's just how rigorous do you want it to be? How rigorous do you want your academic situation to be? SMU, if you go in SMU, you will have more of a breathing time, because usually people who go to SMU, what my friends and I kind of like generalize is that they're into startups. So because these SMU kids are into startups, doing internships, doing side hustles, and generally they have more free schedules, and SMU gives you more flexibility to kind of control what you want to do. So it's like these kids with already like solid plans that they need more time for, and they just kind of want to go to school also for the degree, then you go SMU. If you want to get the full on like Singapore experience of a university, go to NUS. But NUS pays higher at the end, so you gotta think about it.
Thank you. Catherine has another question. So she said, "Hi, did you apply to any other countries like the US that have earlier reply deadlines? If so, how did you manage that? Because if I'm correct, Singapore releases their offers really late."
Okay, like I don't think you should be following my example, but honestly, I applied to US and I got in San Francisco. So I was about to like put down my offer, like not I was about to accept the offer already for San Francisco, because I was like, um Singapore releases the results is like July. I got mine in August. So I was like, I got my offer already in San Francisco in February. And then I'm panicking because Ateneo, you have to accept it somewhere like I'm not sure, like June maybe, or like earlier than that. Like UP was also due soon. And so because I really wanted Singapore that bad, I basically took a gamble. And this is what a lot of people who want to go for Singapore does. They basically take a gamble and then just assume they get in. So you have to reject everything that you got accepted for before the point of the Singapore results. If you don't get it, then that's when people take your gap year. If you get it, then good for you. But it's there's no way around it. It's quite a bad gamble. I think that's why also the people who went to SMU that I know, they took 1 year first in Ateneo, and then when they were already in Ateneo, that's when they were applying to transfer to SMU. So that in case anything went wrong, they already like have a university going on for them. Yeah.
When you apply as a transfer student, do they transfer credits?
Uh, I don't I don't think they transfer a lot. I'm not too sure about this because I believe Ateneo has a lot of courses. Yeah, there has a lot of courses I think that don't transfer. So when they transferred over to SMU, they repeated the first year. Yeah. So it's not like a second year, then you get to continue from second year. It's a totally different curriculum.
Thank you. Someone asks, how can you like estimate if you're safe to gamble?
If you apply for SUTD, I think if okay, if you made it to the interview stage of SUTD, then you're like, okay, you're safe to gamble. It's a very high chance you actually can get in. If you're gambling for NUS, I suggest you don't gamble. Actually, I suggest you have a safety school. Maybe you have your SUTD as your safety school, or I think SIT maybe. Uh, or actually also SMU. Yeah, I'm not saying your safety schools are like the easy schools to get into. That's why they're safety schools. I'm just saying in like the difficulty range, they're like here when like NUS is like there. Yeah.
Thank you. We have one more question. What is the med scene like in Singaporean universities?
Oh, okay. If you wanna take medicine, you wanna go to NUS. You wanna go to NUS or NTU? Was it NTU? Uh, yes, NUS or NTU. The medicine scene is actually quite big because I'm sorry to stereotype, but you know, your stereotypical engineer, doctor, is they're all here. It's basically what every parent's dream is here, making your child a doctor that's also an engineer. So um actually what's quite interesting is now what's getting popular here is TCM, which is like traditional Chinese medicine. And even like a niche as small as this in medicine, there is a course for it in like NTU, I think, or NUS. Yeah, but it is extremely competitive and you must have all your, let's say, biology higher level, yeah, chemistry higher level. If you're applying for these, you must have your top notch grades. Like you're amazing. You have to be amazing. If you're not amazing, your chances of getting in are honestly like zero.
Thank you. And regarding medicine, do they offer Mo grants also for that or
For
other
the
scholarships?
MOE.
Yeah.
Oh, hmm. I okay. I think I think so. I don't know the percentage, but I am pretty sure they do. For medicine. Yes. Sorry, I'm not too sure about this. You'll have to read the MOE grants list for this one. I don't really have medicine friends that much.
Thank you. Okay. There's one more question. Is there a minimum IB grade for scholarships?
Hi, Madison. Oh my gosh, my friends are in this chat. I love it. Okay. So for minimum grades, for scholarships, no, there isn't. Because the scholarships, because you can do sponsorships for scholarships, you can actually apply with any grade. Like even okay, my friend, she didn't even take IB. She's homeschooled, and with this homeschool grades, she was able to apply for sponsorship and basically not pay too much for scholarship. But for the academic scholarship, that one they don't actually announce the minimum grades. It's kind of almost like everybody applies that year and they will see who is like what's the general average of like the top students, and then you want to these students are the ones that get your academic scholarship.
Thank you. Oh, someone is raising their hand. Yes, I think we can entertain that. Hi, Peter.
Hello, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I would like to ask if how can I apply for Singaporean school? I'm currently incoming grade 12 from the Philippines.
What school are you looking at?
As much as possible, a Singaporean university.
As like what is there any uni you
The
want in
specific one.
particular, or sorry?
Just just give me a minute, po. And still finding the
Okay.
university.
Take your time.
Thank you. The National University of Singapore, to be specific, po.
Oh, okay. You go to all these unis actually have online portals. So you just search for the NUS online portal, and then you can start submitting your stuff there. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. I would like to ask as well if there is any ACT or SAT test for applying on the certain university, or you just need to create an essay and pass all the requirements.
When I applied, there was no requirement for SAT whatsoever. It was more like yeah, it was just for the missing subjects issue that I mentioned previously. But then for this one, no, you don't need to submit SAT grades. You just need to submit your high school, like grade 7 onwards.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. I think those are all the questions we have for today. If there's no final questions, yes. Okay, so that concludes our Q&A session. Thank you so much, everyone, for your active participation. And I hope that our beloved speaker was able to shed light on your curiosities and concerns. But if not, Caitlin, would you mind putting your contact details in the chat box? Maybe your Facebook or Instagram, if the participants
Sure.
contact you. Thank you.
Okay. I will put my Facebook and Instagram in case okay. Come follow me. I will accept you if you have your academic questions here.
Thank you. Okay, everyone. So it's there in the chat box. Just check it. She placed her Instagram and Facebook. So, yes, on behalf of CAMP's 2023 facilitation team, I would like to extend our sincerest gratitude and appreciation to you for sharing with us your valuable insights today. We're so grateful for accepting our panel invitation. So, guys, let's give a round of applause for Caitlin. Yay. Okay, so
Thank you.
thank you so much, everyone, to coming for the day 4 of this year's camp conference. And see you guys Thursday next week. Thank you, guys. You can leave the Zoom room now.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you so much.